Happy New Year. It's 2025. Today we're going to talk about who are we. We're going to share some background on ourselves. We're going to talk about pros and cons of traveling and selling jewelry. I have New Year's resolutions for you and all kinds of things. And today you're going to meet my husband, Mark. Well, hello.
Hello,
This is Mark.
I'm Mark.
My hubby, who's always behind the scenes when I say, my husband Mark did this, or my husband Mark came in and said he liked these earrings best, or my husband Mark made the jump rings that I'm using. Well,
I'm otherwise known as the other half, or sometimes the worse half.
No. This video is to say Happy New Year
Happy New Year.
and to let you know a little more about us because we've had the channel for just over a year now. And I think it's going pretty good. What do you think?
It's going well and better, getting better.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. So I thought I'd put this video together for a couple of reasons. I am going to share my New Year's resolutions with you, but I'll share that at the end of the video. I thought since I could get Mark down here, I would have him tell you a little bit about himself. So you know what? Let's just get started. Would you like to share a little bit?
I'm on the spot here.
He is on the spot. Okay.
I don't have any script.
When I say share a little bit, what I'm actually saying is that let's let our audience know a little bit about us. They know that we made jewelry and traveled and sold it for many years, actually a little over a decade, but they don't know anything about who we are. Not that we're anybody special or important, but we just thought you might like to know. So Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, I was born in a little log cabin back in the woods in southwestern Pennsylvania.
What?
No, oh, that's not.
That's a fairy tale.
Oh, okay.
See what I put up with already?
Well, I did grow up in southwestern Pennsylvania,
True.
but I moved to Northeast Ohio to get a job in teaching, and I taught high school biology for 30 years near Canton, Ohio. That's south of Cleveland. And I retired from education in 2003. Then we met shortly before I retired.
Yeah, the same year you were retiring. Well, kind of the same year.
Yeah,
That next
thereabouts.
Yeah.
One thing led to another. We got involved in a couple of brick and mortar stores. What all was in the stores?
Furniture, home decor, seasonal decor. We did start a second store. You mentioned a couple. The second store was more of an art gallery style. The first store had Amish-made furniture. The second store had imported furniture and became more of an art gallery. And that is actually where we did start introducing some fashion jewelry on display, and it sold pretty good.
Backing up a little bit. In the home decor store, Vicki and several other girls worked as interior designers, and they would get jobs from clients to go out and do different types of interior design work. Sometimes there was some home improvement that needed to be done, and I started running a home improvement company. I had a background in a lot of interior and exterior home improvement over the years from teaching. I had summers off and I would get into things like that. So we started a regular home improvement company, and I was able to bid and get jobs from the clients that the ladies that were doing the designing had. That went along pretty well for several years until 2008 and 2009.
Yeah, that kind of dates things now. 2008, when the economy crashed.
The big crash.
We were on my 50th birthday vacation, and we got a phone call. Stock market fell. Nobody was coming into the store. A lot of our clients lost their money, and everything went downhill very, very fast. Any of you that were around and remember 2008, 2009, it was pretty rough. And I'll just have to say we had to close both stores.
And the home improvement jobs dried up. Everything just
very
went
fast.
to pot.
It just stopped.
Yeah.
It was shocking.
So we had to recreate ourselves. And as Vicki started to say, we had begun to sell some fashion jewelry in one of the stores.
Let me take it from there, because as I said, yes, we had some fashion jewelry. We would go out to Las Vegas and do the buying for the stores, and we saw everything there, not just furniture and, well, furniture, lighting, home decor, seasonal, and jewelry. Okay. So I thought, well, why not? Let's bring in some jewelry and see how that goes over. And we did, and it sold quite
Yeah,
well.
went over real well.
And then after the stores closed, we did have some inventory left, and I still had access to buy some inventory.
And we needed some money.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm talking about reinventing ourselves. I immediately start thinking about, what are we going to call ourselves? What are we going to do? What are we going to call ourselves? And when the jewelry came to mind, the possibility, to sell jewelry, at that time, ready-made jewelry, I came up with the word Avante, because Avante means forward. And at that point, we had nowhere to go but forward. It was a real rough time. So our first craft show, do you remember our first craft show?
We started setting up at the flea market.
Oh, that's true. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Flea market. Mark was quite busy. He was taking care of his dad in Pennsylvania. But when he could, he'd go with me, or sometimes I went by myself, and we set up at the Hartville, Ohio flea market. And we had purses and scarves and jewelry, imported jewelry. And it was okay. But flea markets are tough. Getting up that early, the weather, the wind, the rain, couldn't really count on it a whole lot. But then somehow we got into a craft show. But it wasn't just a craft show. It was a craft show, vendor show, vendors. So it didn't all have to be handmade. But we were dabbling a little bit in handmade jewelry. So we did this show. I'll call it a craft show for the sake of calling it something. And this woman came by and she said, "Oh, I like what you have here. Would you like to come do our show at the Canton Women's Club?" And we're like,
Okay,
that sounds cool. So we thought we should kick it up a little bit and try to make a little more handmade jewelry. Completely new at this. I mean, I don't even know. That was probably 2010, maybe 2010.
Yeah.
Just to date it.
Yeah, about 210.
And we did this show, and we did pretty good. We were like surprised.
Yes, wow.
As I'm talking about doing that first show at the Women's Club, I also remembered how you got started. And
Yeah,
go ahead and tell them how.
I was kind of interested in making some jewelry because Vicki was doing some bead work, and I got interested in trying to do some wire work, and it was okay. It wasn't real successful, but we went on a vacation to Canada. We had friends that lived that were Canadians, and we went up to visit them.
Love Canada. Love our friends up there.
Yeah, it was great.
And those of you who watch that live in Canada, thank you.
They lived way up north of Toronto, up near a little place called Cheer Lake. We were visiting with them and doing some touring, and we went into town one day to the Sunflower Festival. And it was a craft show of sorts, vendors on the streets with pop-ups. I saw this one vendor there who was making chainmail. Now, it wasn't making it on site, but they had chainmail jewelry. And I started looking at this, and I'm thinking, I can do this. I bought 2 different samples to work from. One was actually made with beads, and one was without beads. I got home and started playing around with it. And it was, this isn't as easy as it looks. And I had to do some research, and I got some books, and I started learning that you can't just stick any 2 size rings of any 2 gauges together. You had to work with stuff called aspect ratios and all of that. And I went through a steep learning curve. I got it down. But my problem I found was that I wasn't able to buy rings that were of the right sizes that I needed to make what I wanted to make. So got into making rings. And I started by just hand winding them on a mandrel and snipping them apart with cutters. And that didn't work real well or very fast. Then I learned about using a jeweler's saw to cut the coils, and that went a little better, but it was still tedious, and I was using up the rings faster than I could make them. So I wound up getting into a mechanized version. Mechanically spun the wire into a coil, and then I used a powered saw to cut the coils, and it made things a lot faster and increased my productivity. And I was able to learn new weaves, and then with each new weave, I was able to start and create something new and different, a new different design. I got to about 9 different weaves, and I've got dozens of different patterns that I'm making. I was making earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and even finger rings. So,
I forgot about those.
yeah, that took off, but I'll let you go to the next step.
Oh gosh, what is the next step? So while Mark was learning chainmail, which was not my thing, I wasn't out there cutting jump rings in the garage or the basement, wherever you were doing it, basement, I guess, at that time. And I just kind of call myself the bead brain of the family. I like to work with beads, gemstones and crystals, and a lot of pendant necklaces and bracelets and earrings. I mean, really, what can you make, right? There's earrings, bracelets, necklaces, pendants, and as you said, rings. Pretty much just different variations of everything. And we did some small craft shows. We did some little church, at Christmas time, we did some church sales, craft shows and things like that. But then a friend of ours told us about Good Guys in Columbus, Ohio, Good Guys Car Show, and that they had a women's world called Good Gals. It took us to a whole nother level of thinking when it came to making and selling jewelry.
Yeah, I said Good Gals was where the women could go to spend their husband's money while their husbands spent their money out on the cars. It was a pretty good gig.
Overall, we were about 24 feet in display of handcrafted jewelry. Along with car shows, we did National Street Rod shows, NSRA.
Well, what happened is while we were doing the Good Guys show in Columbus, we had customers that were really liking what we were doing. They say, "Are you going to be in Louisville?"
What show is that?
What's in Louisville? Well, that's the NSRA Nationals coming up next month. Oh, they've got Women's World there. Okay, so we looked into that.
Good Gals and Women's World.
And then it was just kind of a domino effect. It went from Louisville to Knoxville, Tennessee, to Kalamazoo, Michigan.
We did Burlington, Vermont.
York, Pennsylvania, Burlington, Vermont. And we were bouncing all over the country to these different shows.
And we did it for years. I mean, we truly sold our jewelry for over a decade.
We had some customers that they traveled to these different shows with their cars, and they were looking for us at the next show, or they were looking for us there again next year.
Mm-hmm. And when the car shows weren't going on, we did the local shows. We lived in Canton, Ohio, and we did as many local shows as we could because it was really nice to stay home. Okay, it really was, especially as it was getting cold. And we did really well. Here's a little story for you. We were at a craft show that we didn't have our full 24-foot display, but we had about 20 feet, 2 tables, 2 8-foot tables, and then we turned the corners. Anyway, full of jewelry, right? Because it became our job, our work. It's all we did. I mean, we sold on eBay. We still sell on eBay. But the jewelry was something that we had a lot of time, wouldn't you say, to devote to it. And so we had a massive amount of jewelry in our display. So this lady, well, first of all, my aunt came up and she bought a pair of earrings from me. And she walked over to another vendor's table, just, right across from us. And that vendor said to her, she said, "There's no way they make all that jewelry over there. There's no way." Well, she was talking to the wrong person. Well, maybe she was talking to the right person, because my aunt said they absolutely make all of that jewelry over there, every bit of it. That's my niece.
And the other thing on the similar line happened to me. We were at a show, and I was standing behind my display with my bracelets and earrings and necklaces and stuff. And some guy walks up and looks at this stuff, and he's handling it and looking at it. "You didn't make that stuff." I said, "The heck I didn't." I said, "I made every one of those rings, and I put every one of them together." He wasn't buying it. He said, "You've got that offshore." So from that point on, every time I set up our display, I set up this display area where I could actually demonstrate making my jewelry. And that really helped sell it. When I
Yeah.
can show that, here's how I make this piece, and they can watch it and they can look at it, and it really helped sell the jewelry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And the ladies
and
loved his jewelry. Oh my gosh. Because it was so unique, And it was affordable because you worked with plated, gold and silver plated.
but I could customize things for the ladies. I could shorten it, lengthen it, create. I could, get their ideas. If they'd see me on day one, they could come back on day 3 and I'd have something new made for them. Some of these shows were 3-4 days long.
And I also did some customization on spot. So I had special orders. I was making bracelets that said Chevy or Ford and the year of their car on it.
Yeah.
Those little alphabet bracelets. We each had our own completely different style. And he ran his side of the display and I ran my side. And it just really worked well. And we really did love doing it. And we loved all the people. So now that we've shared that,
Oh,
I do have a question.
I back up a second. I think because before we really got into doing the shows and the in-person stuff, we tried doing some craft malls, and we did
craft
set up
malls.
we were in craft malls
Yeah.
in Ohio and Michigan and all over. We had about 5 different craft malls going at one time.
We had a couple
And-
in Columbus. We drove up to Livonia, Michigan. We tried
We
so
had
many.
theft. We things just
Oh,
they didn't sell.
Berlin, Ohio, in the
Yep,
Amish
yep.
country. Yeah, let me
But,
just share with them. Yeah, the theft, or moving things, right? Oh, it probably wasn't stolen. They probably just picked it up and left it in another booth. Well, that did happen, but I actually caught a shoplifter stealing from our booth. I won't go into it here because it's just unbelievable. And she was teaching her daughter to shoplift with her, but I helped catch her. She was arrested, and there was a warrant out for her arrest for retail fraud, they called it. So we would just happen to be in Livonia, Michigan on that day. Yeah, it wasn't worth it. They didn't have the traffic, and
the
stuff
thing
was
is,
always moved or stolen.
we weren't there to talk to the people
Yeah.
and sell our jewelry.
Exactly.
It was there for sale, but we couldn't talk to our customers like we could at the shows.
That's where we really learned that our jewelry wasn't going to sell itself. Sitting on an easel, a pretty necklace on a jewelry easel on a shelf. Sure, we had sales, but nothing like what we could do in person. Because in person, people could see our excitement and passion for what we were doing. I mean, we truly love making jewelry. I'm not going to say loved past tense, but I still love making jewelry. But they got to talk to us, get to know us. So they weren't just buying a piece of jewelry. They were buying something special from the person who made it. And that made all the difference in the world. So you're probably wondering at this point, why did you
aren't
stop?
we doing this anymore?
Why aren't you doing it anymore?
Well, to start with, these shows weren't cheap. First of all, as I said, we lived in Canton, Ohio, and we were driving to Columbus or to Louisville or to Knoxville or to Kalamazoo, Michigan, to York, Pennsylvania, to Burlington, Vermont. Lots of road miles, and you put gas through the vehicle, and you got to put food in your tank, and you got to have somewhere to sack out, and accommodations are not cheap. And a lot of times when these big shows like these car shows go into town, the
price goes up.
Yep.
Not a thumbs up, but price goes up.
Yep. Hotel and motel prices go up. It gets expensive, and the show spaces, a 10 by 10 space to rent the space for the 3 or 4 day show could be anywhere from a couple $100. At the Louisville show, I was paying $700 for 2 spaces plus they charged me $100 to plug in a light cord.
And you got to have lights.
Plug in an electric cord to run our halogen lights to display our jewelry. So
there were unions,
it
and
was
you had
expensive.
to pay. And
we did have to do well. We did have to, and we did. We covered ourselves. It was work.
where we made the most money, honestly, was at the local shows, where you could just go home and sleep in your own bed.
Yes.
You didn't have to worry about eating out for 3 or 4 days.
Yep, a two day weekend school craft show or church
Oh
craft
gosh,
show.
we did good.
Yeah.
And we still had our big display because we always got at least two booths, two spaces. So that's where the profit really came in, was at the end of the year.
Okay, but
But what? I don't know what he's going to say.
to do all of this, we had a 5x8 cargo trailer that we had tables and stools and all of
Props,
our lights, our
displays.
props, our shelving, our lights, and
Tablecloths.
plus
and
all of the jewelry.
risers.
And so it took a 5x8 cargo trailer to do this. So when you get to the show, you drop the tailgate and you start to unload that stuff and haul it inside and get it all set up. And with as big of a setup as we had, we were sometimes 4 hours
Yeah.
or more.
And you don't always get to park close.
No.
Now, some shows like Louisville, Kentucky, we could drive into the building
Yeah,
to
there
unload.
were a couple places where we could actually pull the trailer right up
But,
to our spot
you know,
and unload right in front of it.
Setup was, as he said, oh gosh, 2 hours to get unloaded and 4 hours to be completely set up. Then tear
and then
down.
when the show was over, you had to tear it all down, pack it up, and get it back into the trailer.
Are you getting a little hint as to why we're not doing this anymore? Actually, there's some other things I want to share about that. Get my mind straight, because I never know what you're going to say and you don't know what I'm going to say.
I don't either.
Okay. Our last show was in Talmadge, Ohio. It was a good show for several years, and we were willing to drive back up to that.
Yeah, we drove from here in Tennessee back up to do that show.
Until what happened was, and this happens with a lot of shows, a lot of craft shows, a lot of shows, okay? The vendors want to make, no, the promoters want to make more money. They want to put more money in their fundraising program, they're for their
Coffers.
effort. So what do? They expand the show. They find another building. They find another hallway. They put more vendors here, more vendors there, and they think, "Oh, this is great. We can count on this much money from running the spaces, right?" But then, guess what happens to this vendor sales? Our sales, when we've been there year after year, our sales go down because it's pretty much the same amount of people coming to the show
Same
every
number
year.
of people spread over
And
more
now you've
vendors.
got new vendors and lots more jewelry. A lot of jewelry, okay? And some of them were just vendors like selling paparazzi and other jewelry that wasn't handmade. And it started cutting into our sales. So even though we made good money, when you look at the big picture and you start seeing it decreasing, when I say good money, I know they're going to want to know, what's good money to you? Okay, I sold a lot of $5 items, and yet I was able to make $1,000 in a day of $5 items. I think you might be surprised by that.
And I was selling anything from $5 to $95. And on some days at the big car shows, I was doing $2,000 to $3,000.
In a day, right? We're talking in a day.
Yeah.
So when you're doing 3 or 4 days, yes, it brings in some money, but you're spending about $1,500 to $1,800 in expenses. Now,
Or more.
On the local shows, you didn't have the expenses. So as I said, that's where you really start seeing your profit at year end, mostly at the Christmas shows.
Tell them about the last night, packing up from that
All right.
last show.
Okay. So Mark had wanted to stop doing the shows for years, and I didn't want to.
I've had back problems and some other physical issues.
Yeah.
Arthritis starting in my hands. Don't want to work the pliers to do the chain mail.
But as I said, I wanted to keep doing the shows until we were up in Talmadge at the show. It was at a fairgrounds, I think, in Talmadge. And as I said, we had seen the sales drop and drop and drop as they kept expanding the show. And traffic was less on Sunday. It's like, why were we even there on Sunday? So what happened was, we told you it's a lot of time to set up. Well, it takes a lot of time to tear down, too. And we would pack everything properly. We didn't just throw our jewelry into a tote and into the car and go. We bagged everything to protect it. And 24 feet, it's a massive display. And it took us at least 4 to 6 hours to tear down.
It was 4 hours.
Properly.
And the problem was they wanted us out of there by a certain time.
Oh, sometimes they wanted you out within a half hour, an hour. Like, well, we can't do that.
No.
It's impossible. Unless we just throw this stuff together. And we just didn't do it that way. We were always very neat and organized, with it. There was one other couple left with us. And they had a humongous trailer. older than us. We're seniors, okay? I'm 66.
I'm 72.
But this was about, I don't know, 6 years
This
ago.
was, yes,
Maybe about 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
Our last show.
And they were, they had to be
Mid-80s.
closing in on, they were at least 80.
Yeah. Which
She
is
was
fine.
She was in a wheelchair?
Yeah. Which, age doesn't really matter. But yes, hon, she was in a wheelchair. He was doing all the loading, and they were getting into an argument.
She was telling him what to do, where to put this, and how to do that, and he was getting all fired up. And
so anyway, so I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, I don't want to be them. It's so much work. We're getting older. We're trying to retire. We had already moved to Tennessee, Kingsport, Tennessee, and I looked at them like, I don't want to be doing this at that age. Do we really have to do this? Do we need the money that bad? I don't know. All kinds of things were going through my head, but most certainly I didn't want to be in their situation. I got in the car and I looked at him. I said, I'm done. I'm done.
That was a surprise, but it was a happy surprise.
Yeah. Like I said, his arthritis,
I
physical
said,
demands.
My saying is, I retired once, but now I'm just tired.
So that was the last time we did a show.
Yep.
We never went back to it.
Well, the cargo trailer is still sitting in the driveway with tables and stools and the props and the lights and some of the boxes. We've got all of our inventory inside, but it's there. It could be fired up and ready to go, but...
And we've tried to find shows around here, but to be honest with you, a one-day show doesn't cut it. It's not worth all the work to set up and tear down. We have not found a show around here, even a 2-day show, that we feel is... we've gone to them. We checked them out. We know what we're looking for. We're looking for traffic. And you really make the money when you have a minimum 2-day show with a lot of traffic, a whole lot of traffic coming through. So they know all about you, Mr. Mark.
Sort of.
But they don't know much about me, except that I make jewelry.
Who are you?
And I upcycle vintage jewelry. Who am I? I am his
Tell me
wife.
about you.
Wife of 20 years this past May. We've been together 22 and a half then? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, 22 and a half. Back to my jewelry. No, I guess back to a little bit about me. Because I know they know everything about you now. No, they don't. You don't know everything about him. He's a great husband. How's that?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great wife, too.
Love you. Oh, my. Oh, no, I don't know what to say.
You're going to edit that out?
No, I'm not going to
leave it in.
I'll leave it in. We're all adults here. It's okay. You're allowed to give me a peck on the cheek. Okay, my background. Gosh, I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
Amen.
I've tried just about everything. I've had 2 jobs pretty much my entire life. I don't think there's ever been a time where I only had 1 job. And that goes back to when I was 19. How's that? I have a background as a mortgage broker. I was a loan officer first, but I became a broker. So I have that background. Been in sales and marketing. I said an entrepreneur, so how does that play in? I had a publication in Ohio where I helped advertise other stores and sold advertising for that. That goes way back.
You're crafting in Florida? Your push
Oh, in Florida. I lived in Florida from the time I was 19 to 34. And
15 years.
I sold at craft shows. I handcrafted country decor, country crafts. And I even made some wood beaded necklaces, hand-painted wood necklaces. I think they had geese. Is that just pathetic or what? Does that date me or what? Back in the 1980s. No claim to fame there. Craft shows, and then I had a push cart in Tampa Bay Mall where I sold handcrafted items from one of those little wagon wheel, push carts that they have set out in the middle of the mall. So that's my entrepreneurial part. Well, I did a party plan with it. I went into people's homes and demonstrated my handcrafted items, and I had a neighbor making small furniture pieces. So that's, back in the early days. And then I got more so into sales and marketing when I worked for a industrial company. Gosh, hon.
Promotional products?
Promotional products. I went out on my own and sold, the logoed things like pens and cups and mugs. So when we met, I was selling marketing promotional products. And the jewelry. We already told you the story about that. It evolved after we had our retail stores. And just to kind of loop back to that a little bit, Mark said what you said I should talk about why I started this channel. I mean, that's why you're watching this, right? We have a jewelry channel, jewelry making channel. I kept the name Avante, right? Because when we traveled and sold our jewelry, it was Avante Jewelry. I didn't know I was going to get so much into the upcycling of jewelry. I've always had a passion for vintage and pre-owned jewelry. But when we did the shows, it was all brand new, all brand new. Stones, crystals, chain, beads, everything was absolutely brand new. I didn't upcycle anything. I mean, I had some charms that had a few vintage components, but oh, yeah, fast forward to the question somebody asked. Where do you find all of your jewelry? Where do you
want me to
find
answer
it?
that?
No. Oh, you look so sad. Okay, he gave me his answer earlier today. Where do we find all my vintage jewelry?
Over there in the drawers.
What do you mean I can just walk over there and find the jewelry?
Well, because you can walk over there and there's all these trays in drawers that, let's see, 1,
Okay,
2,
stop,
3, 4. But there's more to it than that. It's just that collection got started long before the jewelry channel got started.
Okay, truth be told, it all started with auctions. There's two,
Sold Vicky.
you know, I love jewelry. My grandmother let me go through her jewelry box before she passed, and I picked out some special pieces, and I just always have loved jewelry. Okay, we went to some auctions. Yes, we did. And they'd have some jewelry boxes, done up with, drawers full of jewelry. And yeah, I bid on some of them, okay?
Oh, and there's got to be some silver and there's got to be some gold in some of those boxes.
Yeah, right. I don't think I was that naive. But, there was another way I came across a lot of jewelry. And it's not going to be anything I don't think anybody would ever guess. And you probably don't even remember. I made up a little card and I went to the gold and silver shops. And I left my card there that they could hand out to anybody who wanted to sell their costume or fashion jewelry. Because, they're coming in there to sell their gold and silver. And then when they find out that maybe it's not gold or silver, they still want to sell it. So I was getting phone calls from ladies, and I set up an appointment. They came to our home. We had a pretty decent sized house then. We live pretty small now. But I had a dining room, an official dining room, and I had a pad on the table to protect it. And they would come in and we'd lay out all of their jewelry onto the pad. And I would look it over, and Mark had his microscope, and he would inspect it to see if it had any branding on it or condition.
It was a stereoscope. It wasn't. It was like
it's not a
10,
microscope?
a 10 to 20 power stereoscope.
Okay.
It wasn't a real strong microscope.
Okay, but he would inspect it. I would inspect it. The lady would be sitting right there watching us do all of this, going through it. And then I would step aside and do some calculations, and I made her an offer. And she could counter the offer if she wanted to, and we could negotiate. Nobody ever walked away with it. They all wanted something for it because they didn't want the jewelry anymore. Sure, I had a lot of gold and silver looking chains that weren't gold or silver, but I did sell those on eBay. I was surprised that those sold, but it also opened up the door for the vintage, because I'd always say, do you have any vintage beaded jewelry? And they brought what they brought, and we made a deal, and I bought some jewelry. So that was, I think, a pretty creative way to find jewelry. What was I going to do with it? I had plans to sell it all on eBay because I was doing eBay at that time. I've been doing eBay for 20 years, over 20 years. And then garage sales and church rummage sales. And sometimes at a sale, I'll just say, what would you take for all of the jewelry? And normally
I'm going, oh no, more jewelry.
I know, it sounds like I'm a hoarder, but I'm not. It's it really doesn't
relatively
take up,
organized.
it doesn't take up hardly any room compared to all the other eBay stuff that we sell that's big and bulky. Jewelry, doesn't take up much room. I accumulated a lot of vintage jewelry. Now, I had a lot of it listed on eBay. And then when we moved from Ohio to Tennessee over 7 years ago, I had to take down all the listings, and they just never got listed again. We went on to other things.
When we left Ohio, we had no intentions of doing eBay again.
That's true. I bought the jewelry, planning it when we were living there, but then we decided to change our situation, downsize, and all that stuff. And
we sold off a lot of our inventory, almost gave it away just to
yeah,
not have to move it. But
so
some of it did come here.
And then we accumulated some more to sell. Like I said, we have over 3,000 items.
We did
Okay,
accumulate.
so back to the jewelry. I have a ton of vintage jewelry. And I've always had this idea on the back of my head about upcycling it, playing with it. And
She's talked about that for years.
a little over a year ago, I told Mark, I said, I want to start Avante Jewelry. I want to start up a YouTube channel and see.
And I'm going, another YouTube channel?
Well, they don't even know probably about all the other YouTube channels.
Okay. Don't even know
So
about.
we have a YouTube channel that we've had for over 4 years, going into the 5th year, Avante Avenue. Okay. That's our eBay reselling channel where I show people what we bought, how much we sold it for, how I pack it, etc., etc. Now, when it comes to the videos, Mark appears in the videos, but it's all me when it comes to the filming and the editing. Mark makes guest appearances.
I help selecting in some of the purchases.
Oh, sure,
but,
sure.
There's things that I like and things that she like and things that neither of us like. And
when it comes to the buying, absolutely. Yeah. But when it comes to YouTube, it's all on me.
Yep.
He doesn't even want to know.
I have no clue how that magic works to make one of these
And you might
things.
wonder, well, how did you learn to make videos? And by the way, I don't use my phone. I'm videoing on my phone, but I do not use my phone and make a nice little video and put it up there in minutes. Oh, no, not my videos. I edit my videos in a program, and I take out all the long pauses or whatever. I try to make it very streamlined for you to watch.
All the and-us.
I can't take all of those out. Oh. And it takes me hours, 8 to 16 hours to edit some of my videos. One of the last ones that I made for you, I had an hour and 40 minutes, I think, of video to edit, and it took me about 16 hours. That's how much I put into it to make it as smooth and clean and flows and music and text overlay and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, enough about that. Well, I do want to say, though, that my background that allows me to know how to do this is that I designed a website for a company I worked for back in 2000. I designed their first website. I also spent an entire summer teaching myself how to use WordPress to develop websites without using a paid-for program. So I just have the ability. That's all. I just have the ability. I have really good computer skills. I have really good typing skills. And that's all fine and good, but I wanted to do YouTube. I did not have any video skills, trust me. And my first videos were horrific. So anyway, we have Avante Avenue, the reselling channel. We have another channel that we're trying to get kicked off.
Well, before that.
Oh, the Thrifty Recipes. Thrifty Recipes that I told you about recently. You know, I haven't had a chance to work on it for quite some time, but I do have over 40 videos on there. In fact, somebody commented saying, well, it's been over a year since you made a video. Are you going to make any more? That's the tone I read it in. And I'm like, gosh, you know, if I published 40-some books, but I haven't published one in the last year or so, does that mean the first 40 aren't worth anything? I didn't say that, but I thought it. But, you know, I shared my cocoa recipe with you because it's good and it's wintertime. I digress. Anyway, our other channel we're trying to get off the ground is Avante Adventures, which we don't have a whole lot up on that, and we can't even get into talking about it right now, what the delay has been. I have high hopes of getting that channel up and going next year.
I would like to insert something there.
Okay, it's sad, though. It's sad.
Yes. We were just really getting up for doing this, going and traveling and seeing different places and touring different towns and historic sites and things. And a lot of what we were doing was in Northeast Tennessee and Western North Carolina. And you know what happened back in September in Western North Carolina. So many of the places that we came to know and love and wanted to go back and video and document and enjoy aren't there anymore.
See, I didn't. It makes us
So
very emotional. It does. And I have all this beautiful video before. I do want to release it. It's just that we were so emotionally,
devastated.
yeah, for all the people that lost their homes and their lives and their families and their pets and I'll stop there. I got to stop there. I'm going to try to get back to it all next year. Okay? Avante Adventures, if you want to check that out. So the jewelry channel. I started it. I shared initially some of my items that I've made and sold in shows, craft shows, some of my Christmas jewelry. A year ago I shared. And because I have all this costume jewelry here and fashion to vintage, and I still enjoy buying it, I do, I started taking some of that apart and upcycling it. And I got such a good response to it that I would make some more, show you some more. I think a lot of you in your comments, I know, really can identify with having collected a lot of fashion jewelry and vintage jewelry, and you want to do something with it, and sometimes you do, and sometimes it just sits and accumulates. So the channel is about inspiring you. That's all I'm hoping to do, is to inspire you to have some fun with making jewelry, upcycling jewelry, making it, whether it's new with new components, which I will still do throughout the year. I just want to have fun. And I don't want it to feel like work. I'm planning on only putting out one video a week so that doesn't become too much work, because I have other channels I need to work too, and eBay, selling, packing, shipping. I still have that going on. I work pretty much every day of the week by choice because I don't know how to do nothing. You know,
My dad used to say, doing nothing is the hardest thing in the world to do
why is that?
because you never know when you're done.
So true. That's a good one. Anyway, I started the channel. I wasn't always consistent in the beginning, but I'm much better now. And wow, is it taking off? And I can't tell you how excited I am about that, how excited we are about that.
Very.
Because I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to still make jewelry, still going to have fun, and I hope you have fun watching. We do need to come back around to, are you going to make any chainmail videos?
I was going to address that. A couple weeks ago, I actually did try. I've got arthritis in my fingers and hands, my thumbs especially, and to make chainmail, I have to work with 2 pair of pliers at the same time. And it gets pretty achy. It gets kind of clumsy. Now that when I'm trying to do it, I actually did make a short video showing how to make a pair of earrings in Christmas colors in red and green and silver and gold, and without having a lot of practice at working under the camera to show what I'm doing. I had framing issues and I had focusing issues.
It was your first one.
So, I mean, I don't know if she'll want to insert a little segment of it just to show you. After we've surrounded the gold rings with the last 6.5 millimeter silver, we're going to flip everything over, go back to the red end. We're going to pick up our little 2.5 millimeter ring, open it, and attach it to the single ring above the red rings.
Well,
Maybe
it was your first one, and I
Yeah.
did edit it all the way through, and I put it up for us to see it privately.
possibly maybe insert a couple photos of some of my
You'll have to give
displays.
me some off of your
Yeah,
iPad. We are a little concerned that we might have an audience that's one likes the vintage and the beaded, and we don't know if we have people who are going to like the chainmail, because when you have a YouTube channel, you know,
It draws an audience.
You draw an audience. And if you mix it up too differently, if you have two extremely different styles, it can actually hurt the channel. And we're aware of this. So I asked him the other day if he wanted to have his own channel just for chainmail.
And I do not.
Okay.
That's a bigger endeavor than I feel like I can get into.
So Mark, what are your thoughts when it comes to making chainmail in 2025? What would you like to say about that?
Well, after the brief trial I did here a few weeks ago, I really think it's more than what I want to get into, especially with my arthritis, the pain issue. And I also began to realize that I don't even remember exactly how to make some of these weaves at this point. I would have to go back and retrain and repractice, and it's just more than I think I want to really get into at this point.
I hear you. I understand.
It's kind of sad. I mean, I really
sad.
enjoyed doing it. But one of the reasons that I wanted to stop doing it 6 years ago was my hands were becoming an issue.
Making jewelry, for those of you who make jewelry, which I assume all of you do, yeah, sometimes if depending on how many hours you're working, it can really be hard, you know, on your hands. Maybe we can start putting some of your jewelry up on eBay so they can look at it. Maybe we can start showing some of the jewelry in the videos at the end. You know how I'm doing the fun finds of the week. Maybe I can just incorporate here sometimes, you know, do an episode where we, you know, share some of your handmade pieces and they can see it, and then we'll have it also listed for sale on eBay. What do you think about that?
That's
Because
a possibility.
we're not planning on doing shows, and we have a lot of inventory that we need to list. I think pretty much shows, we're never going to do another show at this point. We've shared with you why, but we have jewelry, we have inventory. And even though this channel is not a sales channel per se, you know, although I will say we really appreciate it when you do buy something from us. It helps support the channel. So thank you so much for that, which I think are from viewers, subscribers.
We really can't tell.
Can't always tell. Some of you leave a comment, some do not. Thank you for that. Thank you for your purchases. We'll try to get some of his jewelry up on eBay. I think they know more about you. They know a little more about me. I have some questions that some of you have asked, and I'm also going to give you a little tour of my work area in my office upstairs. We have separate offices, and it's pretty crowded. There's a lot of stuff in that room.
Thank goodness you cleaned it up the other day.
I know. It was a lot of work, 2 days worth of work. I get behind from making jewelry, and 3 days. There's 2 days.
Okay,
Just 2 days. I'll show you that and the questions. I guess I can get to the questions. And here's some of the questions. I don't know. Okay. Do you have a Facebook page? Do we have a Facebook page for Avante Jewelry?
What's Facebook?
Exactly. Yes, I'm on Facebook personally, but Mark does not have a Facebook page at all. And I have no intentions of starting a Facebook page. And I'll tell you very simply why not. And that is, you have to have moderators for a Facebook page. And I can hardly keep up with moderating some of the comments. I know. You wouldn't believe some of the comments. Most of them are great.
Most of them are great.
Thank you very much. But some people are not so kind.
Very appreciative.
But no Facebook page in our future. So let's go on to the next question. Do you do jewelry repair? No, we don't. I did take one necklace. You know, really, that was my first upcycle. I had a lady ask me if I could repair a necklace that she had inherited, and it was too short for her. And I did it, and I added new beads to it, and she was absolutely thrilled. In fact, I made a pair of earrings to go with it. I think I mentioned it one time in a video. That was my first and ever repair, and it was an upcycle because I added new beads to it. So I did it once, but am I going to do it again? No. I don't want the responsibility. I don't want to be responsible for anybody else's jewelry, and I don't want the pressure of something I have to do versus what I want to do. You know, at our age, I like to do what I want to do, don't you? You know, what we want to do, and I don't want to be obligated. So no jewelry repair. We already answered this one. May I ask why you stopped traveling with your jewelry? I think you know by
I think
now.
we covered that.
Yeah, pretty well. Where do you get your vintage beads from? I covered that
I think
one
we
too.
covered that one too.
Yep. All over the place, anywhere I can. What do you use for storing all your beads and jewelry making items? Well, you're going to see that in my office area. I have a lot of organizers. In fact, I have links below the video for my tools and supplies,
And
some
there's all those
supplies,
drawers over there.
and links below for my organizers that I like to use. And I'm somewhat organized. And then this one. Sorry, but I have to share this one. For someone who loves to make jewelry, which I love, she says, just wondering why you don't wear any since you like trying to sell it. I'm like, who says I don't wear any? I love it when I get these all or nothing comments. Those are the ones that push my buttons just a little bit, to be honest. Of course I wear jewelry, but I don't always have jewelry on in my thumbnail. You know, the thumbnail, what you see that advertises the video. Sometimes that's because I just wrapped up a reselling video for Avante Avenue, and I didn't have any jewelry on for that, so I didn't have it on for the thumbnail for the next video. You know, time is, I got to coordinate these things.
But you're wearing some here and here and
I am, and I do like jewelry, but
here.
I like earrings, and I like bracelets, and I like rings, but I don't wear a lot of rings. I like my wedding rings.
And I don't wear jewelry,
No,
period.
no piercings. So I guess what I want to say to this about why you don't wear any. First of all, that's not true that I don't wear any, but it's humid here. And when I'm making videos in the summertime, I'm not wearing necklaces. In fact, I don't wear a lot of necklaces. I like bracelets and earrings. So you may not actually notice that I'm wearing some jewelry. So I got kind of a kick out of that, I guess you could say. Yes, I have my memory wire bracelets on. And I will say this necklace, which you haven't seen me wear for a long time.
No.
This is a combination of a gifted pendant and earrings from my aunt. It's amethyst, and it's a boxed jewelry gift, the boxes that you find in Kohl's and stuff, and it had a very fine chain. And I upcycled this years ago and made my own necklace for it with amethyst type beads. I think they are amethyst beads and gold. And so I took a store-bought necklace.
Purple pearls.
Yeah. I didn't upcycle the earrings, but I did upcycle the necklace. So there you go. I've got jewelry on. Let's see. Any more? What are some brands or types of jewelry I shouldn't take apart? Well, I don't think you should take anything apart that you absolutely love as it is.
Whether
the
it's
design.
a name brand or not.
Yeah, name brand or not. It doesn't matter. And I do check the brand on everything. And some brands I take apart because I don't think it's that unique. And other brands we sell on eBay.
Like Claire's Boutique, go ahead and take it apart.
Yeah. I have so much jewelry to work with that I can pick and choose quite a few pieces I can take apart. Now this one, I'm going to share it because I'm kind of curious what your response might be. You destroy a lot of pretty necklaces. I'm being accused of destroying a lot of pretty necklaces.
How dare you?
And I didn't even think the one I took apart was that pretty. Hey.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I don't consider it destroying at all. I'm upcycling it. It's just beads. It's just beads and components. And it was beads at one time before. It was chain. It was all apart before. I take it apart. I make it into something else. I could put it all back together if I wanted to, couldn't I? If somebody actually thinks I'm destroying so many pretty pieces, then I kind of said, well, then this isn't the channel for you, because that's what I do here. I guess I destroy jewelry. No, I don't. No, I don't. I was really taken back by that comment. Thank goodness so many of you, 99.9% of you leave comments that make me smile, that make me feel that I am inspiring you, that my video is inspiring you, and that you're enjoying them. It makes my day, I have to tell you.
And she usually can't wait to read them to me in the morning as new ones come in.
As soon as he comes in,
I hear all of them.
I sleep in later than Mark. And as soon as he comes in, he hears everything. All the updates, good and bad and ugly, I guess, sometimes. Yeah. So I still need to show them some video clips here. Got the questions answered. I want to show you my office and share with you my resolutions. So I actually think that...
I'm done?
I think you're done. And I think this video is over an hour long, but...
It was nice meeting all of you and chatting. Maybe we can do this again sometime.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mark.
Thank you for joining me.
Yes. Well, yes, for 22 years now.
Yeah.
And we hope to have 20 more Christmases together. That's what we hope for. We know that so many of our friends now have lost loved ones. Many of our friends have lost their spouses. And if you're in that situation, we do want you to know our heart goes out to you. We can't imagine what that must be like. We appreciate every day. We have been in the same working space together ever since we met. I was an entrepreneur, you retired, and
I retired and went to work.
we really appreciate what we have, and we hope that you have the same thing too. And if you don't, our heart goes out to you. I'm going to get emotional here again. So, all right. Thank you. See you later.
Thank you. Bye. Remember that thumb up button.
Let's go take a look at my office. Still has a lot of stuff in it, but it's much better than it was. Well, I took 2 days and cleaned up and organized my office again to get ready to make jewelry for 2025, because you see, it can become quite a mess when I'm working. Let's start right here. I have this really nice cushion and a swivel chair with no back, because that works really good for me. I have my table, has a tablecloth on it. I have a couple of mats on here, different colors. This is foam, and I like to use a wrist rest. Yes, a rest for my wrist. Over here, I have an assortment of tools. This is just a makeup organizer that I have my tools organized in. I have my microphone, lots and lots of lights, including a ceiling light, because you got to have a lot of good light to make videos. I do have some natural light out the window and a mountain view. Virginia right there. I have a lot of my supplies right here, you know, all kinds of things. Bags and bags of findings, all kinds of stuff, you know, stuff that I've accumulated over many years. I just went through my entire table, and this side is predominantly gold items, this side predominantly silver. I have my caliper. I have an organizer here that I can get to from the side. It holds my seed beads and bead spinner. I reorganized the top of it to be my backup supplies for all of this. And I have my bowls stacked up for when I need them. These are hauls that I have lined up to show you some of the jewelry that I found. And this tote is for seasonal, Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's. I'm accumulating things. Some of my microphone and equipment here. Jewelry making books. Yes, I have a nice inventory of jewelry making books. And I have the top decorated with some personal items. This stuff here is for eBay, poly mailers and things like that. And of course a TV. Everyone needs a TV in their office, don't they? Although I very seldom watch the TV, because when I'm in here, I'm typically making jewelry. Just to show you another angle, I have some bead mats on my chair. I spent several days going through every single piece of jewelry that I had stored in my office, and I've organized it, bracelets, brooches, pendants, all kinds of organization here. These will eventually go downstairs and be listed on eBay. Some of them might end up in hauls because I haven't shown you most of it. Oh, and here's me when I was little. Oh my gosh. Up above are organizers with some jewelry that I've made in the past that I'd like to show you some of the things that I made. Have some personal items there. Lots of bead organizers. So let's give you a 360. It's pretty busy in here, but it works. As I said earlier in the video, I started this channel just to have fun. I don't want it to become a job. I don't want it to become work. I just want to have fun sharing with you what comes to mind when I'm creating jewelry. Most of my jewelry is not premeditated. I just start doing it. I just start working with it. To me, that's the fun of it, right? That's just, that's being creative. That's making jewelry in the moment. And that's what I hope you take away from my videos, to do the same, to get out your bead stash and just have fun with it. So I'm always thrilled when I read comments that you're doing exactly that and having fun while doing it. We've never owned a bead shop. That's why a lot of the things that I show you are just design ideas, and I can't share with you all of the components that I used because I may not be able to find them in my affiliate links that I share below the video. I share with you what I can, but I'm always hoping that you'll go back to your own bead stash and your own findings and see what you can make with what you have on hand. To go along with that, one of my New Year's resolutions that I want to share with you is that I'm never going to be a bead box channel. A bead box, a bead kit, a bead box of the month, that's not my thing. That's not my stick. There are other channels out there that do that, and that's perfectly fine. But I have no interest or desire into buying into a sponsored video, basically a sponsored channel, by receiving these kits and sharing them with you. So what are those resolutions? I have them listed. I hope you don't mind if I read them to you. Number 1, I resolve to never become a bead box channel. Nothing wrong with that, just not my thing. I resolve to never conform to the norm. No, that's not me. I resolve to never feel obligated to any one brand, not when it comes to tools or beads or components. I might share things with you that I'm using, but I never want to feel obligated to a particular brand. I do resolve to upcycle vintage to modern jewelry. That's here to stay. I'll make things from new components too, but upcycling is definitely going to be part of the channel going forward. I resolve to share with you any information that I can find when it comes to tools and components and storage containers and things, and you always find those links below the video. You have to look for the word that says more below the video to open up the drop-down box to find those links. So I resolve to share with you what I can. And this one I haven't mentioned before, but I do have some supplies, excess supplies of findings, and I thought I might share some of those with you. Small lots of particular beads or findings that I have. I have far more inventory than I'll be able to use in making jewelry. And so from time to time, I might have some supplies available for you from my own bead and component stash. And I want to say it one more time. I resolve to have fun. You know, making YouTube videos is not an easy endeavor. It's just not. Sure, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of courage to put yourself on camera. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time to make and edit the videos, so you got to love doing it or you'll never last. And it takes a lot of, how can I say this? It makes you tough, okay? Let's get real here. I've been doing this for 5 years. And as I said earlier, thank goodness the majority of the comments are appreciative and make me smile. But there are some who try their best to do nothing but tear me down. And at 66 years old, well, you know what? I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take it. I'm doing this because I want to. I'm sharing with you because I'm having fun sharing with you. And I love it when I hear you are having fun too. And as long as you support me in your thumbs up and your comments, and that outweighs the ones that don't, well, I'll keep making videos to share with you. And we'll keep having fun. Because life is too short. And I'll never understand why people say things in comments that they would never say to your face. And that's what happens on YouTube. Not to end on a sour note here, but it's a reality. So I again want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your kind words and letting me know that my videos are motivating you, inspiring you to have some fun with your stash, your bead stash. YouTube is not easy. But with that said, I still enjoy making videos and sharing them with you. I do. And that's what I'm going to continue to do in 2025. If you're here for me, I'll be here for you. Thank you. And hugs to everyone, because if I saw you in person, I'd give you a hug.
It was nice meeting all of you and chatting. Maybe we can do this again sometime.
I'll see you in the next video.